Hey guys, we were just streaming for the last 10 minutes and just discovered that we were not live at all. Oh my goodness. How are you guys? You know, everyone's first live stream has to run late, and I feel terrible that that just happened, but that's okay. I think we lost most of the people, but we have got one back. Hey everyone.
That's
I'm
okay.
Yeah, that's terrible. Let's talk about what we're going to do today. That's amazing. It's amazing that you can hit the live button 12 times and it doesn't go through, and then at the end you realize exactly what's happening. Um, I'm a little bit thrown, but that's okay. We're going to build a 3D printer. My name's Gil, and if you've followed me on my YouTube channel, or whether or not maybe we've even worked together locally around Australia or maybe in the US, I'm all about maker technology and maker creations. And I want to introduce you to my good friend Josh, who's right now in New York City. Josh, how are you doing
Yeah,
today?
I'm doing great, man. It's always a pleasure to see you. It's been great just talking with you over this isolation period and having someone to do, having someone to talk to, and I'm really excited tonight. Well, first of all, as Gil mentioned, I am a STEM educator in New York City. I teach on the Upper West Side, and uh, I'm always looking for ways to like bring new technology and new methodologies into the classroom. And I just figured this is a really fun thing to do during the quarantine. And you urged me on to get this wonderful 3D printer, which we're going to be assembling tonight. And first step on my journey to become a maker.
Absolutely, and Josh, you are already a maker. The really interesting thing
Thank you.
about this is that I was planning to be in New York City right now, obviously because of the pandemic. We've kind of the whole planet shut down, and as Josh and I were talking over chatting technology, video conferencing technology, we thought we'd bring you all together and share this journey, because I always get people saying to me, kind of, how do you get involved? And I love to show people exactly what's going on. So today, what we're actually doing is I was able to wrangle Josh into buying a 3D printer. Do you want to share with them what type of 3D printer this is?
Yep, this is a Creality or Creality, depending on how you pronounce
Creality.
that word. It's
Yeah.
an Ender 3 model. As you've shared with me, it's a relatively inexpensive entry level 3D printer. And I think it's going to get the job done for me. You know, I mean, I've got a list of things I want to make. There's friends and family have already asked me to make some things for them. And, I've been waiting. I'm really excited to get this together.
Yeah, look, you know what? 3D printers have definitely come of age. I think it was about 10 years ago that I first bought my first 3D printer, had to assemble it from scratch. I believe it's actually sitting right behind me, right there. There you go. That's one of them. One of the
I know
multiple
it is.
3D printers that I have hanging around here. But one of the great things about this technology, the price come down. The Creality is a fantastic machine for beginners. It's also very hands-on, so it's not like videotape technology. And that's exciting because I know in our conversations, Josh, you really spoke to me about the fact that you wanted to learn this process and understand and be able to take it into the classroom. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump straight into it. Josh is going to be working in New York. I'm going to kind of be a fly on the wall. I'm going to explain to you guys what's going on. We've actually set up a nice little work view, and you can see everything's set up there. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down every step of the way, and I'm going to explain to you what it is that Josh is actually doing, what it means to the 3D printer, and a little bit of 3D printer theory. So shall we jump into the step one, Josh, and see where we can go from there?
Let's do it. I'm ready. Definitely
Okay.
ready to go.
This is definitely a new process for both of us. I'm really glad to see that there are people on board watching us right now. If you're if you're in the chat room right now, we love it when you guys say hello or let us know that you're there. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to jump in and see what's going on. So let's move on to step one. We're going to share with you the
Yeah.
instructions that comes with the machine. And you'll see on your screen right now, this is step one. And what you need to do is you actually need to put together these two bars that is going to hold a printing gantry online or onto the machine. And this is actually your Z-axis. So Josh, if you want to begin, and I'll talk people through
Okay,
it, and we'll
sure.
probably zoom in a little bit. But what this
Yeah,
first
yeah.
step is the Z-axis. And this allows the 3D printing to move upwards. So the way a 3D printer actually works is relatively simple. It is the world's greatest 3D tracer. So if you imagine that you wanted to build a box with a 3D printer, every layer gets stacked on top of one another. So what you end up having is one layer, and then another layer, and then another layer, and then another layer. And if you did this with a piece of paper, you could draw out a box, cut it all out, and then stick one layer on top of another. And as you get a few hundred layers, that box will start growing upwards. And that's the actual 3D part of the 3D printer. So that's what we're actually going to put together right now. Josh I'm going to ask Josh if maybe he can scoot across just a little bit so that it's centered in the camera. Let's see.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's okay, because we're actually a little bit cut off. We can see all your parts perfectly. And then we'll let Josh do that, and he can ask any questions if he gets caught. This is a little fiddly because the way this actually mounts is from the bottom, which is kind of interesting. Josh, could I get you to push that 3D printer just kind of like a halfway down the tables, because we're just missing the end of it. Ah, beautiful. And just to let you know, I've got my friend Derek from Melbourne. He's got the same machine, and it's a great kit, he says. And I believe it's your cousin from Israel saying hello, Kaddish.
Actually, it's my nephew.
Your nephew, sorry.
Hey, Kaddish.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we've also got he is saying hello from Austria. So we've got a whole bunch of people right around the world, which is really, really neat. And people are now saying that they can see us. So that's happening.
So
and Derek's from
these
Canberra.
feel like thumb screws.
Yeah.
I can't get it 100% tight. So I'm gonna try. See. Oh, there we go.
You got it in, as they say.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't actually see what's going on, but you're just threading a screw into that base.
I mean, I could show you.
Show us what you're doing.
Try. It's got. I've got here. Go up. I've got like screws like this, and they seem to be thumb screws, but I'm not sure if there's like another wrench that'll kind of help me out here.
Okay.
Maybe there is. Oh, that'll do. Oh, it'll do.
So those screws are actually called machine screws. They've got little cap heads, use little Allen wrenches. They're very common in the maker community. Unfortunately, I'm going to ask Josh maybe once he's finished to spin around that base so I can see exactly what's going on as well. But what is really interesting is that if Josh can actually hold up the other piece of metal that he needs to screw in once he's finished, you'll actually see that the extruded piece, they call this maker slide, actually has a channel in the middle that allows those screws to go straight in. So, yep, Derek, that's exactly it. They're Allen heads. So it means that you can actually construct something with quite a bit of support straight away. So that's kind of really neat. And it's a really fast way of being able to put this together.
I initially thought they were just thumb screws, and I was having a bit of trouble with it, but now I found the Allen wrench.
Oh yeah,
and I'm
you're definitely gonna need the Allen wrench. And I'm gonna
listen. I like to do things on hard mode. Can't make it too easy for myself.
It's all about the learning, my friend. It's all about the learning. And all we can see is that top surface. So I'm wondering whether or not we could probably shuffle you down a little bit and see it being constructed on the side. Because right now, all we're seeing is that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I've got the first one in now.
Okay. Do you want to flip it really quick so we can see exactly what's going on?
Yeah. So basically, can you see this stuff?
It needs to be kind of
in down here.
Josh, you know where the bags you put for all the bolts and stuff? That's the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
So we couldn't see any of that.
Got everything organized. Now it's not organized.
Beautiful.
Okay. Now how's that?
Yep, just flip it up so we can see exactly what you were doing and what you're working on.
Well, I'm going to do the other one so you can see that. I'm going to do, hang on, shorter, longer. Extruder, yes. So
I'm going to be a real
this
pain in the
one-
butt. I'm going to ask you just to flip your camera up. Just get up before you do that and just flip your camera up a little bit because we're missing all the action, unfortunately. So your work camera.
Yep. You tell me when it's better, okay?
Yep.
That's good.
Yep, just a little bit more. Done. Perfect. Thanks, Josh. I know I broke our rule once we said it, but now that you're working on it, we can actually see that's a much better view. So.
Great. So now, not the easiest way to work this way, but okay. All right.
If I can make a suggestion, if you actually tip the printer, have the base on the arm that you just put up, we'll actually be able to see what's going on, and it'll actually support the machine on its side for you.
Oh, you mean like this?
Yep, perfect.
Actually, that's probably easier anyway.
You know, you're always better at the dance the second time around. So what Josh is also what he's assembling here will become the assembly for what they call the extruder, and the extruder is what delivers the material on a 3D printer. In this case, it'll actually be a plastic. We go with a type of plastic called PLA, and we'll talk about that as we come up to it. But we actually are putting together. You can see if you were going to send this printer fully constructed, you'll see in a very short period of time how tall it is and how much you actually how much depth you have to be able to print. And that becomes your printing area. So imagine a box, and you are able to print all at the same time a design to that scale. So it's kind of interesting in that sense. And
So
this
in other
design,
words, I can't make anything bigger than this.
Well, you can. There are cheats for that, which I use quite a bit. So you may have a small area, but you can make multiple prints and actually put them together in a really interesting way, so that they actually at times are stronger than if you had printed it all in one. So Josh, that looks like you've done the first step.
I think we're done.
Cool, man. So let's go to the second
flip
step.
it on down.
Excellent. We've got a second step looking at it right here. So your second step is actually to put the power supply onto the end of the printer, as well as the control board, which will allow you to interface with the machine. Now, that's actually facing you. So I wonder if we could spin that around a little bit so we can have it in the same orientation.
So you want to this way?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah. And then we're going to grab the power supply. And I was talking to you about this a little bit before. Because these machines are made and shipped all around the world, you actually have 2 voltage selections on the side. And in fact, in that in the instructions, it actually says this is the time for you to set your voltage. Now, in the US, it's 110 or 115. And in Australia, for me, it'll be 220. So I was asking Josh, if I had set my 3D printer to 110 and put it in the wall in Australia, what actually would happen?
Maybe someone knows in the chat.
Yeah, maybe someone does know. If someone would like to throw out maybe an answer, because I do a lot of traveling, and being in Australia, especially with 220, I always was worried when I put my computers in. Nowadays, everyone has what they call universal power supplies. They're a little bit more expensive, but they automatically regulate the voltage. But in this case, it's a manual thing. So here's a question, and I might give out some stickers and send some stuff out to anyone who can answer the question. If I took a 110 power supply and placed it into a 220 voltage stream, what would actually happen? And I've got a feeling Derek might know. Does anyone else have a suggestion? So I'm being told that from he that it's 230 volts in Austria, so we are on the same power supply. If I go to Austria, and Australia, very similar. That's kind of neat. We should be able to work without having any sort of step-down transformers. Anyone else? Kind of challenging. Smoke. Derek says smoke will come out of the power supply. If I take a 110 power supply and I put it into 220 or 230. Someone else says no clue. So I'm going to fill you guys in. What will actually happen is that nothing will go on. Because the power supply is configured to use 220 or 230, and you're using half of that, you may get the power supply to actually power up a little bit, or nothing at all will happen. Now, Derek's answer of smoke is correct if I took a 110 power supply and I plugged it into a 230 volt. So if I took Josh's 3D printer all set up at 110 or 115 and I plug it into the power supply in Australia at 220, there may be a lot of smoke coming out. There'll definitely be a burnt smell as the different configuration within it are blown. So if you happen to be in America and you're traveling around the world with your electronics, you have to be very careful to make sure that they're compatible with the power supplies around the world. If you happen to be in Australia and you plug it into a 110, all that will happen is that you can't use it. So that's a lesson that I learned. So by traveling around the world, and it's kind of, it's just something to think about, especially when you're setting something like this up. Then again, if I brought my 3D printers from Australia to the US, I would have to make sure that they're on the right voltage. Oh, Abigail, I just saw that you got your NASA logos in the mail. I'm so glad that they came through. Took a little bit more longer to get to New York than I expected. So that's kind of cool. How you going there, Josh?
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Just locking in that power supply?
I think so.
He's getting there.
Had to find the right Allen wrench.
So I actually haven't got the kit in front of me, but I would say that they're probably M3s and M5 bolts. The M3s are for 3 mil and the M5s are for 5 mil. And I would say, having worked with power supplies before, that is definitely what's going on there using those M5s or M6s. But I'd have to take a look.
I got
exactly
it.
What's going on.
I got one of them screwed in right now.
Okay.
The top one. And the bottom one is not really. So the power supply is actually like maybe a centimeter off the rail. Is that supposed to be that way?
I would actually say if you can open up that top nut a little bit, not all the way out, just give it a little bit of wiggle room. That'll allow you to align things a little bit easier. Yeah, that's enough. That's more than enough. And then what I would do is, put in that other screw. And generally, when you're assembling things, put the screws in first, keep them loose, line them up, and then tighten them. Usually the furthest screw first, and then go into the inside one. Kind of helps. Derek actually just mentioned that the Australian versions of this printer now all come with universal power supplies, and that could be correct. I would love to be able to take a look at this, but the one we got, which I believe came from Creality USA, I know you bought it from those guys. So I guess they're the official marketing ship. The model that they sent actually is a physical switch. So you have to be aware of that and lock that in. And just out of curiosity, Josh, is that switch against the maker slide so you can't get to it once it's all assembled?
My power switch is on the outside here.
The voltage selection switch, the one we've been talking about.
It's on the back, so I can reach it.
Oh, okay, great. It's good to know. I just thought from that configuration it might be that case. So Kaddish is asking me, is it possible that outlet converters, so Americans can use converters? Yes, absolutely. There are converters called step-down converters, and what they do is they kind of bleed out the voltage from 220 to 110 so that you can use your electronics in countries that use like 230 volts. What they do is they convert the extra voltage into heat. So that's actually what all power supplies do. So if you have a power supply for your computer, and you touch it after using it for a few hours, you'll find it's really, really hot. What that's doing is either taking the 220 or the 110 current, and it's basically actually knocking that down to 12 volts, the same things you get for those little square batteries. All computers run on 12 volts, and that heat is actually the current being dissipated. So yes, you can go in. I believe Best Buy and Bed Bath & Beyond have these little converters. They're about $30 from when I remember in about 10 years ago, and I actually have a few of these for some of the electronics I brought back. Josh, I was saying something, and I was just.
Oh yeah, you should get really excited because I finally got to the next part.
Excellent.
Now it looks like I'm putting on the display.
Excellent. So that display is actually also the control board for all the electronics. And as we go along, you're going to see one of Josh's last step is to actually wire in all the different motors and the different voltage measurement, the temperature regulators, so that we can monitor what's going on with that 3D printer. And Josh is going to do that. And then once that's still part of step 2, so it's just on that second part. Mate, you're ripping through this very quickly.
I mean, I'm happy it seems that way. I feel like I'm moving in slow motion.
No pressure, right? No pressure whatsoever. No, you're doing great.
I appreciate that.
Given the fact that we chose specifically to do this live, to show what the process is, whether or not you're a brand new maker or whether you're someone who's got a little bit of experience, we thought the value in this is to actually understand the process. So if you wanted to do something like this, you don't have to build this printer, or if you wanted to build something, you would have some understanding of exactly what is needed. Because I know from my perspective, I watch people doing things, I go, cool, I'm totally excited about being able to go and recreate a project that I've seen, and then I realize what took them 10 minutes is going to take them 7 hours. So one of the things I love about this sort of process is that we're getting advice from the chat room about your assembly. So Derek, who's actually assembled one of these things, has a suggestion that you should fit the ribbon cable to the control board first before attaching it. But you know what? I think we should.
It's already attached, unfortunately.
It's already attached?
I like that suggestion a lot.
Perfect. There you go.